Welcome to the Area Podcast from the Ames Regional Economic Alliance. I'm your host, Eric Smith. On today's episode, we're joined by Dr. Wendy Wintersteen, president of Iowa State University. She shares her journey to becoming the university's first female president, her approach to leadership and innovation, and how Iowa State drives research and economic growth across Iowa and beyond. This episode is presented by Flynn Wright, Iowa's premier full-service advertising agency, serving clients from coast to coast for over 40 years. Experts in crafting stories that sell, Flynn Wright prides itself on helping brands drive performance and stay one step ahead. Dr. Wendy Wintersteen, thank you for being on this episode of the Area Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good fall at Iowa State University.
Isn't every fall a great fall?
I think so. The students come back. They bring a tremendous amount of energy to campus. Campus wakes up when the students arrive.
I'll tell you this, my wife and I, we've lived in Ames for, over 20 years. And I think everybody who has lived here a long time, it's wonderful when the students come back. And I know, Duff gets busier, but there's just this energy to the community in central Iowa as a whole when the fall comes back and students return and everything is happening.
It's really true. And, you see the students out on the rec fields. They are down at the stores on Main Street or around town. And it's a fun environment.
What's interesting, so I'll drive past Lincoln Way and we'll go past campus and, you see the bridge lit up, Iowa State Bridge. And then, but like you referenced the rec fields, they have all the lights on, it gets darker earlier in the evening now. And, I have to pick up my kids or something. But I'm like, there's just this energy that a university and certainly the size of Iowa State that brings to the community.
That's right. I think that when you're, 18, 19, 20 years old, the energy level is certainly very high and it's good. I think we tell our students, get out there, exercise, have some fun. That's part of being at college.
Listen, and we say the same thing, and we're trying to even say it more, but we're saying students engage with the larger community as well. And Ames is a good sized community, but with the size of the university and the size of Ames, everything is accessible.
Exactly, and we have to always give credit to the city-university partnership for SciRide.
Yes.
So SciRide can get our students anywhere in the community, and they have access then to so many different services that the community offers.
Well, we got right into it, but you're the 16th president at Iowa State University, and you were appointed in 2017, but now you're seeing the end of your presidency here come to an end with earlier this year, you announced that you were retiring at the end of the year, and that's going to be the culmination of 46 years at Iowa State. How are you feeling about that?
Well, it really is a bittersweet moment. I love Iowa State University. It's kind of hard to leave, but the reality is as you go on in your life and you think, well, it's time to have another chapter, to do something else and turn over the reins to another individual. So bittersweet is the feeling.
So I don't know if you've talked about this before and share as much as you want, but how do you get to that decision? Because I 100% can understand the bittersweet part of it. I mean, your career is wearing the cardinal and gold, and then certainly, over the last several years as president, you were the representative of the university. That cannot be an easy decision to make to step away.
It really isn't. But again, I think you just find that moment of when you think it is time to think about doing some other things in your life. And it's just a moment when you realize the time is right. I think many individuals, whether you're a university president, a leader in business, or anyone, they know it. They know it in their heart. That is simply the time is right.
Will you go on vacation right away? I know that's a common thing. You have to kickstart the retirement a bit.
I think you do. And so in fact, my husband, Robert, and I will go on a trip in January, get away. It's so important, I think, to be away. And so that's exactly what we're going to do in January.
Well, let's unpack this a little bit. I mean, a bit your road. Your undergrad was from K-State, but you earned your PhD here at Iowa State. You spent the time at Iowa State University Extension Office, and you worked there for a bit. And then probably most notably, the 11 years preceding you being president, you were the dean at the College of Agriculture. And so there was this natural progression along the way. But did you ever have your career trajectory set on where you're at today?
Never. I think as dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, I really felt that I had the perfect job at Iowa State University. I've always loved working in agriculture. Being part of the agricultural community was a wonderful experience. And agriculture is a significant part of Iowa's economy, and being familiar and knowing the issues in agriculture and knowing the community of agriculture, agricultural leaders around the state, the Midwest, and the nation. But I really felt that when the previous president chose to move on to another institution, that someone from inside Iowa State University should apply.
Yeah. Were you getting a number of asks during that time? Like, you should really put yourself out here for this opportunity.
I did receive requests from individuals to apply for the job, and I had remembered that a few years earlier, President Joffrey had actually thought out loud that maybe I would make a good president at Iowa State University. And I really loved working for President Joffrey. He was a great president at Iowa State University, really a phenomenal leader.
Yeah. Well, and also the first women to take the office here at Iowa State. So, I mean, I think that should not go unsaid.
No, and for me personally, it was a nice experience to walk into rooms and have other women say to their granddaughter, meet President Wintersteen.
Yeah.
You too could be the president of a university. So to be a role model for little girls, students at Iowa State, to see themselves in the role that I was playing as president really was inspirational to me. So I met with a lot of young women at Iowa State University and talked about my leadership journey. And so that was a role that I've appreciated playing at Iowa State and around the state, talking to other women about my leadership journey.
So when you were appointed, and I've talked about this often just on the podcast, that just because you have a window into a position, it's always very different, once you're sitting in that seat. And so were there any initial moments where when you became president in 2017 that, you didn't know, I'm going to have to do this now or that now, or that decision comes here. I'm sure that, and you did have a view of what that role was, but until you're there, it's just a view.
That's exactly right. So having been dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences for 11 years, I knew a lot about the university.
Yeah.
And what many individuals don't recognize is that Iowa State has a group of deans across all the colleges that work together very closely. So I was very familiar with all the colleges and their programs and how the colleges functioned. And the colleges make up the significant portion of the budget at Iowa State. So I knew a lot about Iowa State University. But you're right, Eric. You sat down in the chair in the president's office and you learn a lot more. And one of the surprising things that I learned was how often every week I was going to meet with the general counsel of the university. I didn't realize how often I would meet with the general counsel. And so that was an interesting change for me.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is going to be different because we're really running organization with a $1.5 billion budget, and with a lot of different partners. It is a business, and so there are legal aspects to it in a much bigger way. than what I had seen as the dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences.
So in those meetings, is there always a running list of agenda items was it to keep you up to speed? Was it ask you to make decisions? And I'm not asking specific, details on that, but like what was the cadence of that type of meeting?
Because we met so frequently, it was almost always about current issues.
Yeah.
Contracts that needed to be signed, issues that I needed to be aware of, conversations about, what was happening in a particular area that I needed to know about, and not to jump ahead on this conversation, Eric, but I'll just say it. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And at that moment, really how I interacted with my senior leadership team changed dramatically.
Okay. And then did that move, say, post-COVID as well, like the things that you developed during that time and the cadence and the rhythm and the types of conversations, did that just continue on?
And it did. What we learned in COVID really changed then how I worked with my leadership team as well. It changed really the composition of my leadership team, and it changed how we worked together because we learned a lot during COVID and how we responded to that extraordinary event that affected all of us.
Oh, yeah.
And so who would have thought, that was going to happen? And so a striking time for all of us.
Yeah. Well, and it can't be overstated how complicated that time was and really sad for some people, but also from a business and just organizational structure standpoint, it was almost like a reset for many people where you could see holes in the way the system operated. And so, you had to address those in real time because you couldn't use the same process as before. And so there certainly was some positive that, came out of at least that time period.
Oh, definitely. A tragic time for many people. Individuals lost their loved ones, no question about it. And we had to respond so quickly. And I'll never be able to say enough how proud I am of the team at Iowa State University and what they did, how proud I am of our students, faculty, and staff, proud I am of how Iowa responded. But we learned things that I think will hold us in stead for many, many years. We set up so many different committees for how we would have input from faculty and staff on how things were going to work. I'll just share one thing. In a week we changed from in-person to online courses, and our faculty were able to do that. What a miracle, really that was, that we had the technology to be able to do that. But my executive administrative assistant, Shirley Niffel, and I, we were in beard cheer every day during COVID. And that first day that I walked back into the building, we're very conscious of energy savings, and they had turned off essentially all the lights. And I called in and I said, turn the lights on in beard cheer. We're going to be here every day, every work day. And so Shirley and I were in the office, physically separated.
Yeah.
But we were in the office every workday during COVID, and really because of all the needs that we had on campus, every day there were still about 1,000 people working on campus, even during that time.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot about organization, how we could function, who was the necessary leadership team, and it ended up being quite different. And I brought this up because we were talking about my surprise about having to meet with the general counsel so often, and I hadn't expected that. And so now my leadership team is, as you would expect, the senior vice presidents for academic affairs, the provost, senior vice president for student affairs, and senior vice president for operations and finance. But now my senior leadership team that I meet with twice a week also includes general counsel, vice president for human resources. And so it wouldn't have been like that before COVID. But you start in COVID to see the importance of the general counsel. You see the importance of the human resource person. And so that group didn't meet quite like that before COVID.
So tell me more about that senior leadership group. And of course, during that time period, you want their perspective and you find that to be important. And clearly, it's important moving forward as well. But there has to be this balance of getting perspective and then having, so many cooks in the kitchen, who, of course, are advocating, for certain viewpoints and thoughts or strategies on how to move forward. Like, how do you balance all that?
I think as a leader, you have to recognize that you have to have input.
Yeah.
And you have to build what I'd call a trusted table where people can bring their best ideas and they can feel confident that they can share them in a way that they will be heard. And as a leader, I know I don't have all the good ideas. And so you have to have a trusted table of collaboration and sharing of ideas, because that's the only way that you get to the best ideas.
Yeah.
And so it really has worked well. And I couldn't do my job without hearing from all those individuals. I'm not an expert on operations, and I'm not an expert on any of those topics that those key leaders bring to the table. But when we can sit around in that room and have the discussions on the critical issues facing the university, we get to the right decision. And they bring forward from their divisions or their units what are the critical issues of the day or issues that we need to be focused on, and new policies and procedures that need to be addressed. So for me, it's worked out pretty well, and COVID refined it. It was almost a refinement that occurred in fire almost because of what we needed to do.
Well, I love the word trusted table. I think I'm gonna use that. I'll give you credit for it, but I really love that, and I love how trust is the core of that, because I think, especially at a senior leadership level, and certainly at an organization the size of Iowa State University, you need to be able to have those candid conversations and know that whatever the decision is made in that room, everyone can move out of that room in alignment on what that decision is.
And take it back to their division, take it back in a way where we've agreed on how the communications will be delivered. And I'll tell you, things are never perfect. In a university setting, not everybody always agrees. So,
that's any setting.
Yeah, that's true.
It is.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's worked pretty good.
Yeah. So has the role of the president shifted during your time, or maybe the way you view your role? Because part of it, and certainly during COVID, it shifted, and there's a lot of decision making. But is it? And it probably is in some ways. It's part vision. It's part being aware of what general counsel is saying. It's part accountability. But you are also at every single event that you're supposed to. I mean, I don't know how you keep up with your calendar, or I'm certain that, and I know that you have a wonderful team that is going to keep you getting in the right spots at the right time. But you are the spokesperson for the university as well.
I think it's really important that the president knows what's going on at the university, that the president knows about the reports that are coming from the president's senior leadership team. The president also has to have that focus externally with key audiences. And for me, the key audiences have been with alumni, with donors, with the legislature, out in the state, being wherever it's key at that moment, at that period of time. I loved being over at the Brookside Park celebrating, the recent anniversary and helping everybody remember that the university and the city have a tremendous partnership.
Yeah.
To be there with Mayor Hala and to help everybody know that we agreed, I don't know how many years ago, to provide part of that land through some agreement so that Brookside Park could be bigger, and that there's a whole set of agreements between the city and the university that allow the city and the university to both function better. So I think that has to be also part of the role of the president, is to be out there and to be the face of the university. And it's fun. It's fun to be the face of the university, to be in the Milwaukee airport and to have alums walk up and say, Wendy, I'm, so-and-so, and I graduated in this year. I love Iowa State University. And then you have a conversation with them about what was their experience. And it's almost always positive. Now, everybody is not always happy with what you've done.
Yeah.
But mostly it's a great set of stories that you hear about individuals' experiences and what happened to them while they were at Iowa State University. So I've loved being the face. And part of it is that they recognize my red blazer. So I am identifiable.
Listen, as a brand manager, I fully appreciate that you are always on brand. So I love it, and just know it's not lost on me and probably many other people as well. Just every day, I love it. So how surreal is that? I mean, you're at an airport, or you could go anywhere. I mean, we'll talk about enrollment coming up, but once again, we have students here at Iowa State University from every county in the state and every state in the United States and over 100 different countries. So, I mean, the chances of you being able to go anywhere and not find an Iowa State alum are pretty much nothing.
That's really true. And isn't that great? That's great for Iowa State. It's great for Ames. It's great for Iowa. So I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I love it. I can walk out of Beardshire on a Saturday afternoon and run into an alum who is here showing off the university to his fiance. And the alum tells me about his experience here, was here from India getting his PhD. And he tells me how much he loved his major professor and what he's doing now. I love it. It's great. Commencement is my favorite time of the year, and parents are here getting photos with their children who's just graduated and telling me about the jobs they're going to get. And it's a pretty good number. It's like 62% stay in Iowa, and a surprising number of our international students stay in Iowa. So that is part of the job of the president. And for me, it's one of the best parts of the job to represent and be out there no matter where I am, and to get to say hi. Now it's embarrassing sometimes when I'm standing in a line and I start to complain to Robert, and then somebody comes up and they've overheard me whining about something. Now that's embarrassing.
Yeah, right.
And then I say to Robert, "Do you think they heard me complaining?"
You're always on.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I want to go back to something that you said just a moment ago, how refreshing it is that, you're leading a university that truly has a global presence, and we're going to talk about that coming up as well. But also, you're engaged with the community. I mean, the city of Ames is half the population is thanks to Iowa State University and the students, and then over half, once we start getting into faculty and staff and the infrastructure, from employment that the university has. And so it's wonderful that you are also part of the community and celebrate. I mean, you mentioned Brookside Park, but we could go through a whole list of other things that you're engaged with as well.
Yeah. Well, and I believe in the work of the folks that you work with. So I think about Dan Culhane and the effort that he's making every day for the benefit of this area. I'll never forget when Dan Culhane called up and we were working on recruiting Daisy, the processing facility that's going to be over in Boone. We really are a region.
Yeah.
We love Ames, but we're a region, and we know that. We think about everybody that works at Iowa State. They're living around us, right, in Ames and around us. And Dan calls up and says, well, we need to have a little video about you and one of the favorite Daisy products that you enjoy. So, it's fun to participate in either recruiting businesses or supporting local businesses that are in Ames. Or another great example is the work of United Way.
Yeah.
And we know that United Way supports the students, faculty, and staff at Iowa State. And so we are part of this community, and so we have to be engaged. And Eric, I just have to say, well, I'm the face oftentimes.
Yeah.
I'm not the only face. And so I earlier mentioned all of our deans, our vice presidents. They are engaged and serve on boards and committees, and we have to thank them and recognize that they are faces of Iowa State as well.
Well, I'm going to add some color commentary to that once we get back to the break. But just to talk real quickly about the DAISY project. So to add some color commentary to that, it was a Friday afternoon, and our organization was in the midst of trying to recruit what is now, they're here now, what is now the largest construction project in the state. I mean, this is $1 billion investment from Daisy Brand. And we were in conversations with them, and we're like, well, what can we do just to show the community? And so I know Dan called you, and we had the president CEO of Fairway and Rob Denson at DMAC. And, we had all these people just instantly within, it was under a day, you recorded a short video just, welcome to Ames and welcome to Boone, and we're excited for you to be here. And, we pulled it all together, and it was fun. But just the fact that you instantly said yes to that, I think is a testament to your commitment to clearly the university, but the broader community as well.
It was a fun project. I was eating my Daisy cottage cheese.
Oh, I love it so much. This episode of the Area Podcast is sponsored by...
You have a story to tell. That story has a job to do. To be seen. To be heard. To sell. To find inspiration and insight. To use persuasion to change behavior. To turn strategy into tactics, tactics into action. To sell. Nobody does that better than Flynn Wright.
It all started with the mulch colorant that made our name. And now, Color Biotics manufactures millions of pounds of product month after month, bringing brilliance and resilience all around the world. And as we look ahead, all we see is growth. A growing customer base and growing sales mean a growing team. From the lab to the field, backyards to ball fields, and beyond. We need vivid imagination, intense passion, and brilliant ideas. If that sounds like you, we have one question. Are you ready to get to work? ColorBiotics.com/careers.
Just south of Iowa State University, in the heart of the Midwest, sits the Iowa State University Research Park. 550 acres of opportunity and innovation. With over 1 million square feet of developed space, it's home to more than 145 tenant companies, from startups to global leaders. Discover innovation hubs, collaborative spaces, and a community that's shaping the future. Whether you're scaling up or starting fresh, ISU Research Park has room to grow. Visit isupark.org to learn more.
So you had talked about the deans just a moment ago, and I had Dean Spalding on this podcast sitting right where you were, and we were talking about the Innovate at Iowa State brand. And one of the things that we talked about, and he really gave you a lot of credit, was how you really brought a lot of the deans together to continue to work across just like what their specific area was. And when we talk about branding and you're always on brand, the Innovate at Iowa State brand has, at least from my chair and my perspective, just launched Iowa State in a way that I think you're probably hopeful for, but you never know what lands and doesn't land, but it's a mentality at this point that permeates across the university.
I think we really have achieved that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that Dean Spalding, now Vice President Spalding, we have a new dean
Yes.
of the Ivy College
Yes.
of Business, Raj Agnihotra. But Dean Spalding, there I go doing it again. Anyway, Vice President Spalding, he really has been a great partner on this effort along with all the deans. But Innovate at Iowa State in the colleges, through our Start Something network, through the Student Innovation Center, we really own that space. There's no university anywhere that has a student innovation center like we do. And with undergraduates going over that center to create and make, we have about 7,000 to 8,000 students every semester that are taking some course related to innovation and entrepreneurship. And they're learning to have a mindset that's different, a mindset that's focused on innovation. And that's what's going to help them. They might start a business while they're here, and we certainly have students that do a startup. But even more important in some ways is taking that mindset with them when they go to that first job, because it will change how they think about the first project they're working on. It'll change how they think about how they do sales. It'll change everything.
Yeah.
And that's what we're excited about. We have a reputation now with these programs. We've won so many different awards and recognitions. David Spalding, Judy Isles with the Papa John Center. So we're very proud of how this has spread throughout the university.
Well, I'm gonna list off some of them. I'm probably not gonna do it entire justice here, but when we talk about global presence, I'm going to go through just some accolades and then you can respond. And really what it's doing is just co-signing on everything that you talked about. But one of the most notable ones that, is used in branding was named as Entrepreneurial University of the Year for the Americas, which is a big deal, by the way. A Model University Accelerator and Incubator Award, the NASDAQ Center for Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. But in addition to all of those things, we've seen records in external research funding continue to go up under your tenure as well. And of course, just, there's all sorts of other rankings that the university is on. But I just love that a lot of these they're focusing on the entrepreneurial spirit, which just really comes through in the innovate mentality across the university.
And all those awards sound great, don't they? I mean, and we're competing with some of the best universities in the nation to win these awards. And so that lifts Iowa State's reputation. Yeah. Students are coming to Iowa State because we are being recognized in this way, because we have an entrepreneurship major or minor. And so that's really changing what's happening here. So we're very, very excited about this, and it's going to continue to change the future at Iowa State. Yeah. And I'm just so pleased about everything that's happened, and it's not just our students that are innovating and having the chance to do this work, but we're really taking it seriously with our faculty and our staff. And I'm so pleased that we had an anonymous donor that set up an award now for faculty and staff in innovation and entrepreneurship. So here in the future, faculty and staff will have the opportunity to win an award for how they can innovate operations at Iowa State University, or innovate and be entrepreneurial through their research. And so that is another way that this will continue on at Iowa State University with faculty and staff. So that's another way that we're being recognized for our work in this area.
I love these types of awards because, one, they're very competitive, and I always remind people when talking about awards is that the work needs to happen first, and the work is happening because it's the right type of work. And so all of the things that led up to earning the Entrepreneurial University of the Year for the Americas, all of that work is continuing to positively impact. And like this award is just sort of the bow on top. I mean, all of that stuff was going to take place anyway. Yeah. But the thing that I like about how the university leverages these types of awards is that the cycle of positivity is just very good, because you can utilize these awards. You have this external validation, and then, as you mentioned, it can help in fundraising, but then that money gets pumped back into the university to continue to positively impact things.
Exactly. And here in the middle of November, there'll be another announcement about another recognition that the university will receive in this area that we're very excited about. So the momentum will continue, and a space that is really important for Iowa and the nation. The whole economy really is very directed at small businesses. And when we think about innovation and entrepreneurship, a lot of what we talk about is about what small businesses can do.
Yeah.
And we had a young man who did a pitch competition at Iowa State this past year. And when he was talking to my husband and I after the pitch competition, he said, I used to walk around and complain. I'd see problems and I'd complain. But after taking my courses and doing these pitch competitions, when I see problems now, I look at them differently. And I think, could that be a business opportunity? Could I find a solution and turn that into a way that I could have a business opportunity? And that's what we want to see. We want to see people focused on solutions and turning them into business opportunities. That's how we make a difference. That's how you build the economy.
Yeah. Does that type of stuff fill your bucket? I mean,
right.
you're dealing with general counsel and legal things. You got to have those meetings, but getting back into and watching pitch competitions, like that's what the university is doing. I mean, like it's shaping the future.
Exactly. It's seeing the creativity and it's seeing the smart kids come up with ideas that create the future.
Yeah.
And that's what the university does. We help the kids create the future. It's always about the students. In the end, it's about seeing these students and their potential for creating the future. That's what is important about the university.
So I've talked about this before, and I've talked about the importance of proximity. And one of the examples that we point to, at least on the economic development front, is how important the research park is. And of course, we say the university is the economic driver for our entire region, and it truly is. But the number of companies that want to be close to Ames and Central Iowa and Iowa State University is truly remarkable.
It is. And they want to be close to the university for a couple of reasons. One, they like interacting with the faculty. They see the opportunity to engage with faculty research, to help say to the faculty, what are you doing? And when they learn what the faculty are doing, then they see, we could connect here or there. Or they ask the faculty in an age-old way, well, have you thought about doing something in this way? Have you thought about working on this problem? And then the faculty think, is that an area that I should be engaged in my research? And it becomes a two-way street, a two-way conversation about where should research be focused. And that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the other way, of course, is these companies want to hire our students. So at the research park, they can have a student intern year-round. It's not just a summer job. The student works for the company year-round, and this company gets to know the student, gets to evaluate their performance, starts to think this could be the employee that I'll hire when the student graduates. The stories are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we have, on a regular basis, about 500 students that are working out at the research park at any time.
I mean, and that's incredible. And I will just say and remind everyone that infrastructure does not happen in isolation. I mean, there's a lot of work to build that cadence for that to now be the norm and now continue to attract these other, private companies to the region because they see the value in that.
Exactly. And so we have a great president of the research park in Rick Sanders. We have David Spalding in his role as Vice President for Economic Development and Industry Relations, reaching out really all across the state. Great things happen because of the university's connection to the park and our research efforts in economic development in this region and all across the state.
So I want to talk about enrollment, but also the energy of the university. I just find it to be very fascinating, this hybrid of this high-level research at the university from leaders across a number of fields, I don't even know how many, but then the students who have the opportunities to engage with that.
Right.
And this happens across, all colleges, and so just talk about the energy of youthfulness and what that does for obviously the university, the community, but how that also can continue to drive research moving forward.
We have students working in so many research labs on campus, and what we always tell our students in the President's Leadership class is find the class that you love the most and walk down to the front of the room and talk to the professor and ask the professor, how can I be more engaged with your research?
Yeah.
And we tell them to do that, but students are often worried. Should I really do that? And one day I was walking across campus, and a student in the President's Leadership class starts walking alongside me, and I said, well, how you doing? And he goes, President Wintersteen, I did what you told me. I walked down to the front of the class and talked to this professor that I admire, and I asked him, what could I do to be engaged with you in research? And he offered me a job in his research lab. The student said, I didn't know what to do. And so I said, well, I hope you said yes. And he goes, well, we talked about it and we agreed that next semester I'd work in his lab. And the student has had an extraordinary experience. This happens all over campus. The number of undergraduates that work in professors' research laboratories, they get to work with graduate students with the professor. That is another great opportunity that students have at a leading research university that is student-centric, that cares about undergraduates having a research experience.
I find that story to be incredibly refreshing, and it's a message. Now I put, my parent hat on, middle schoolers, and so they'll soon be, at Iowa State and or other places. But it's a message that we continue to send as well, is be engaged, talk to people, just be fearless, ask questions, and just want to do all. And so it's incredibly just rewarding to hear that message at the university level, because all the professors are very busy as well. They have research that they're doing and other things that are leading their attention. And so sometimes all it takes is a simple ask.
That's right. And you should always ask. Students should always ask and talk. And whoever that they see on campus, people are very open to helping our students, and we hear that from our students. And it's not just about a research lab, but they could be experiencing any kind of issue or problem, and we have what we call cyclone support, and we have all sorts of support programs, and students should ask for help when they need it. I was talking to a parent and their child who started in the fall here at Iowa State, and I told them, remember, we have supplemental instruction, we have tutoring.
Yeah. Don't
be afraid to ask for help.
That's right.
I personally hated organic chemistry, and I think most people do. So I just believe in asking for help. We are in a different time from when I studied as an undergraduate. We want students to be successful, and we have all sorts of programs to help them. It's not about trying to have students fail. It's about providing the support that they need. Students can learn.
Yeah.
They can learn organic chemistry.
Well, and just the access to opportunity just has to be at a different level today than what it was even probably a decade ago, and certainly, longer than that.
Right. When I went to K-State and was told that, essentially 60% of the students would fail in my organic chemistry class, that was not a good message.
Yeah. Right.
And we don't do that message anymore. I mean, that's not a good message to give to a group of students. And so, we do things differently now.
Yeah. Well, it's always exciting to see when enrollment is once again up at Iowa State, announced earlier this fall. Over 31,000 students, and an increase in first-year students as well. And I think, in part, that has to be a reflection of many of the things that we talked about.
And most importantly, I would just say we're so pleased with our freshman to sophomore retention. So that's 89.1%, 11 points above the national average. And that reflects the good work of everybody on campus, our academic division and our division of student affairs especially, helping students. Students leave after their freshman year for a variety of reasons. They get homesick. They've struggled. But we do a lot of programs to help students be successful and want to return. And so we're proud of the programs that we provide to help our students.
Yeah. Just from a peer population standpoint, and you're aware of this, but there is this conversation on, there's going to be an enrollment cliff at some point. And yet, at least year over year here at Iowa State, again, a testament to a lot of the things that we talked about, we continue to see enrollment be beneficial. And, we're, of course, in tune with what the enrollment is as well, because it does impact the larger community.
It certainly does impact everybody. And so we feel good when we look at our largest colleges, our engineering, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, the College of Business. Then you start looking at agriculture and the rest of our colleges. And so I think we're going to continue to have strong practices to help enrollment management. We have a strategy, and I feel good about what that strategy is. And so undergraduate, we have the largest undergraduate population in the state, and so we'll continue to manage that well. I think our graduate student numbers are lower than we'd like to see.
Sure.
So we'll continue to think about that and work on that and see what is possible in terms of increasing graduate student enrollment.
Well, the transition process, at least from the Board of Regents standpoint, has clearly begun. As of this recording, the new president hasn't been announced, but will be soon. Certainly in November.
Yes.
I think November 11 was the date that was announced, and so this transition period has to be somewhat surreal for you, although it sounds like you're not short of things to do in any way. I mean, there is a lot to continue to go on, but you'll have conversations with each of the final four candidates just to kind of outline, I would imagine, the landscape of Iowa State University.
Yes, I look forward to having the opportunity to help the new president transition into the office of the president. I'm excited for the new president, whoever is selected.
Yeah.
I know the search committee's done an exceptional job in this process. We'll have a great new president at Iowa State University, and so it's been a good process.
Well, your tenure will certainly go down as incredibly successful. We had Debbie Durham in our office last week Friday, and she was just talking about the impact that you have made, not just here in Ames and Central Iowa, but across the state, but also how you've positioned Iowa State to continue to be that ambassador for the state of Iowa across the world.
Well, I appreciate those words, and we really do believe that Iowa State is a welcoming place for our students, as you mentioned earlier, from all over the world. It's been part of our heritage really forever. So we look forward to maintaining that and welcoming students from all over the world and being engaged with universities across the world.
Well, I always ask for our guests on a professional win that they may have had over the past week or two. Any professional win come to mind?
That's a great question. I would have to say that it's just been the opportunity to continue to work with my team to prepare for the new president. We have done an incredible job of working together to get everything arranged for the new president, and we are well prepared. Well,
President Wintersteen, this has been an honor. Thank you for saying yes to coming on, and I know that our paths will certainly cross and continue in the community, and you will forever be an ambassador of Iowa State University and our region.
Eric, thanks so much. It's really been fun.
All right, President Wintersteen from Iowa State University. If you like this episode of the Area Podcast, we'd love for you to share it. This is the Area Podcast from the Ames Regional Economic Alliance, personal stories, professional journeys.